I think something we can all agree upon within rugby league is that the NRL contract system is an absolute joke. You got all these like drama and headlines around these players signing 18 months out before they even step foot within the club. Like the circumstances can change so much. I just think the NRL system with the contracts just needs a massive overhaul. So today, let's fix it. First off, the player contracts are going to end at the season's end. For example, we got players who their contracts end in the end of 2023, so end of next season, and they can start negotiating from November 1st of this year. It just doesn't make sense. There's so many variables that can happen. So that's the first change we're making is players' contracts end at the end of the season. So for 2023, these players like Dylan Brown, you also got like Herbie Farnworth's massive in the news at the moment where he's going. David Fafita as well. It's like so much news about where they're going to sign, but there shouldn't even be whispers of that until maybe finals time next year. Like if these players, like teams get knocked out or like whatever. So instead of being able to sign 18 months in advance, their contract runs out on like the day after the grand final in 2023, which then makes them a free agent and able to negotiate with absolutely everyone. And then that's when the players are off contract and able to negotiate with clubs rather than 18 months in advance. It stops situations like with Isaiah Papali'i, how he wanted to sign there to play under Madge at the Tigers, and then obviously he's gone. So now he's like, well, what do I do? I don't want to be there anymore. Stops all that drama happening, as well as like the Api Coruscant drama. That didn't really need to be a thing anyway. It got blown way out of proportion, but that kind of thing will be stopped through this. So yeah, as I said, like the way it works is these players will become free agents as soon as the Monday after the grand final ends, and then they can sign for a club. They can negotiate right up until the day before the season starts. So there'll be like lots of, in that way it'll help rugby league also dominate the headlines, as well as something that I'm going to be speaking about in a second, because in the off season really all we get, like in neutral states and that sort of thing and around the country, it's more AFL because they've got their draft and their trade window and that sort of thing. And then for rugby league, most of the news we get in the off season is terrible stuff, like things that players are doing wrong, and it takes the spotlight away from that and puts it on something that's a lot more exciting and gets the fans as well up and about for next year, and doesn't make rugby league just a 6-month sport, and makes it sort of a year-long ordeal, and just keeps the media involved. Well, might not be the best thing for that to happen, given some of the media personalities we have going around, but so alongside the players being able to negotiate between the end of the season and the beginning of the next season, we're also going to be introducing a proper transfer window, loan player window, like just that kind of thing. So by having this proper transfer window, it allows clubs to look at developing their roster in ways that will see them get players who are still on contract to their club, as we've seen like through the Titans and Knights this off-season with Marju and Randall, as well as Clemmer and Hastings. But there's also, with the loan system, it's going to give players who are absolute guns, but just stuck in systems behind other elite players, a chance to go out and learn their craft in the NRL. For example, you've got Taruva sitting there at the Panthers, who's probably, if he was in the comp, it'd be, let's say, a top 10 fullback. Like, for example, I'm not saying he is, and I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just saying, using that as an example. But he's stuck behind Dylan Edwards in that ridiculous Panthers system. And I know a club that is on the lookout for a fullback is the Knights. So, for example, we can have, he comes in on loan for this season through the loan window. He can call it up for the Knights, learning his craft, help them develop their team and make it to the final, try and get to the finals, as well as helping out his development and the Panthers in the long run. That's why it's a bit touch and go sometimes, because the Knights may not want to actually do it to develop the Panthers, but you can include some things in contracts, like if he hits performance bonuses, hits a certain amount of games played and stuff, you can trigger options that means he then becomes a loan to buy. So then the Knights bring him on as a player full time. But there's a lot of different ways and systems you can work it out there, but I think it's better for player and club in the long term. And with these loans as well, you can make it a 1 or 2 year loan, however long you want, and the parent club, so in this case the Panthers, would be able to recall him from loan if something was to happen to Dylan Edwards, and as well if he was just playing, or even one of their wingers and they wanted to put him on the wing, or if he was just playing unreal footy and they were just we want him back because we can find a spot for him in our team. So as well as an off-season transfer window, we're going to have one during the season, so around June, July. And so, because we know now that like players can sign up to June 30, that'll still be the case with free agents. But like if you have one around June, July, like a 4-week transfer window, it's like if there's any clubs that are struggling, like being absolutely decimated by injury, they can try and buy someone. And they also, like with the loans, it stops something like Norfoluma last year happening where he was signed after he was allowed to, that sort of thing. So it's like, no, the rules are you can move clubs essentially between March and October, and a 4-week section in the middle of the year, June, July, and that's it. However, for all of this to happen, all of this trade, transfer window and loan window and stuff to happen, players' salaries will need to become public like they are in sports overseas. And I can see a huge backlash from that, from the players, and you understand why. Like, I don't really want people knowing how much I earn. Like, so I can understand that there's going to be some backlash to that. However, I think with that though, like the fan engagement that you can come from that in terms of like making up trades and like, oh, that's like we can send this player and that player and like send this young bloke as well, and we can get this star back. Like for example, like the Dragons could do that with Munster. You know, like send a few of their young guns, because we've got a mountain of backs that are coming through, and there's only 5 positions in the outside backs that like you can put people. So, but we need a star hooker, so you could bunch a couple of those, like a few of those up, and try and make a trade for one of the big hookers in the comp, and as well, like it gives the fans an opportunity for us to make sense of the trades that are also happening, because this off season we've had Clemmer and Hastings go opposite ways, and like how do you know that works in the cap, as well as Chris Randall and Marju. Like Marju's a winger, and I understand he's been playing first grade and stuff, and like he's probably a decent amount of pay, but Chris Randall's a hooker, and like generally like they get paid more. So it's sort of like, how does that work with their cap? How's it fit in? Like stuff like that. And even with Nofaluma last season going to the Tigers, it's like, okay, like does he fit in like under the cap with the loan, or like how is his contract being divvied up? Like are they going 50-50, or is the Storm taking all of the money, or is the Tigers still paying him? Like what's going on there? How's that working? And is it legal essentially? We're also going to be introducing a draft to the NRL, but we will go into like heavy detail about that another time. But this will do will help the lesser teams like beef up their trade offers to like other clubs for a star. So for example, let's just say in a hypothetical world, the Warriors wanted Nathan Cleary. Yes, you can send stars the other way. Like you can send, let's just say, I don't know who's coming to mind, like Tomato Martin, Fanua Blake, and a couple of the young guns, like one of the Kepu twins and like Valia, to make up for his salary. It's still probably not enough to get Nathan Cleary. So what you do then is, because the Warriors would be like a lower side and their draft picks would be worth more, you chuck in a couple picks and that sort of thing, and it really like it beats up the trade to the point where the Panthers might go, you know what, like we got this bloke coming through the grades who like is pretty decent, we could give him a shot and like building for the future. This is of course hypothetical, and if the Panthers was sort of struggling a little bit, but you still had Nathan Cleary, who's the best player in the comp, probably one of the best players I've ever seen. So yeah, like that way, it gives the lesser clubs like the Tigers from last season, as well as like the Warriors, the Dragons, those kind of clubs, the chance to rebuild and pick themselves up with a star. And as well, like when you have a star, it's easy to attract other players in. But yeah, so moving forward, the NRL, like the way that I would fix the NRL contract system is have the contracts run out at the end of the season, from the season they're contracted to, and that's when they can negotiate. So there's no negotiations 18 months in the future. There's none of this Publi situation, kick out in his Bulldogs uniform situation. That's over. Alongside that, there is a transfer window / loan player window, which essentially is from October to March, and that'll like allow us to dominate the headlines in the off season through good news and like sort of hypothetical stories and that sort of thing, rather than just this player's done this wrong, this player's done that wrong. And player salaries will be becoming public so that people can make sense of the trades going on. We can understand how the salary caps are all like being split up. We can also stop just these rubbish journalists bashing players for earning so much money when they're not even like earning close to that, and like will help the So the common population help to just have some fun in the off season, divvy up some trades, and see if they can try and improve their team. And we'll also be introducing the draft so that these lesser clubs have a crack at making their team better. So if you have any other ideas, if you like my ideas, if you think they're stupid, if you have any comments to say, chuck them down below. Thanks for watching if you made it this far, and go the Dragons.